So I don't know about you guys, but I think we got a decent amount of BBRAE already in the first 10 episodes of season 8 of Teen Titans Go. With the looking for love moment in like the third episode alone, where Beast Boy's giving her a Valentine's Day gift, and like she's accepting it, and she's even accepting the fact that he ate half of them, and just like the fact that she made him blush. Like, of all things, like in the past we've definitely seen him make her blush, but it's just interesting to see, like, this far into the series, almost 10 years in, that now you definitely see that they do still make each other blush, let alone Raven can make Beast Boy blush. And then you had the episode Always Be Crimefighting, which was like the 9th episode overall, where like he's making a joke about Robin's Always Be Crimefighting chalkboard, and like she's you can definitely tell that she's looking at him, smiling at it while he's making the joke. As well as later on in the episode, I don't know if this is really that much of a moment or not, but I'll call it one anyway, where they're both sitting next to each other in the T car. And then, of course, then you get the most recent episode, which is the reason why I made this video in the first place, which is Easter Annihilation. And like already you can see that like Beast Boy is holding on to Raven out of fear at the start of the episode, but when Robin announces that it's Easter. And then later on, almost in the same scene, they're sitting next to each other while Raven's talking about how, like, last year they didn't find enough eggs, and Beast Boy's kind of agreeing with her, and they're just kind of looking at each other and in like all seriousness about the fact that they didn't find last year's eggs. And then like the next scene I consider that has BBRAE in it, I guess I should say, is the one where he's eating the candy. And she's even saying, like, how can you get at a time like this? And he says that it helps relieve his stress and everything. It helps calm him down. Which I think is definitely worth mentioning for, like, what happens later on at the episode. But we'll get to that later. And just how she's not even annoyed by the fact that he's saying that it calms him down. Like, she's just kind of genuinely confused before she turns her attention to the Robin egg. And then I think this is really when the BBRAE for the episode really kicks in, is when they're in the hallway with Cyborg after Starfire just got transformed, and she grabs onto him after they're afraid, like, and he's even kind of surprised by it for like a microsecond. And then like just how like she gets the access to the vent, and how she, as they're going into the vent, she pushes Beast Boy along in to go in first. And you can just tell, like, the look in her eyes is just full of concern while he's crawling inside the vent. And, like, Cyborg's just in the background, just kind of worried for himself. Beast Boy in the vent, like, he grabs onto Raven's hand. They both look at each other in the same expression as they're holding hands even. So this is, like, the second time they're holding hands in this episode. And then, like, as they're, like, expressing fear of, like, the Easter Bunny out to get them and everything while they're in the vents, and Cyborg's tracker starts working, you can kind of tell for a brief second that the two of them are facing back to back with the same expression. I think that's pretty cool. And then even again in the same vent scene, like, you have a rat show up, and Beast Boy and Raven are definitely smiling, looking at each other over the rat in space, before Cyborg says how cute it is, and before the Easter Bunny turns him into an egg. And then again you have, like, I guess what would be somewhat of the third hold handing, although this is really more of just arm grabbing more than anything, which there is more than just one of those as well. And Raven grabs Beast Boy's arm, and they both escape out of the vent into like an armory room. And this is worth mentioning because, like, Beast Boy is freaking out again. He was calmed earlier when he was eating candy, and here's Raven, like, calming him down, slapping him, sensing to him, and then telling him to here, have some candy, and before she shoves it into his mouth. And you can tell as he's eating the candy, or I guess in this case the chocolate bunny, he's like kind of smiling as he's doing it. So it's kind of nice to see that she wasn't really all that annoyed by him freaking out, and more than anything, like, she used information that he mentioned earlier when she was talking to him, and used that information to help calm him down now in this situation, before they both almost immediately freak out and again have the same expression. And this is, of course, before Raven gets the idea for them to fight back, and this is when they have that whole montage. They're both standing in front of a fiery explosion before they go and start their attack on the Easter Bunny on the bridge. And just that whole scene of them working together as they try to attack the other Bunny Titans is really amazing. The fact that they each knocked off Robin and Cyborg individually, and then they both worked together to take out Starfire. And it was just really cool how they both, like, again showed the same facial expressions as they're both, like, in fear of Starfire on the ceiling, and then Raven being attacked by Starfire, and then Beast Boy like taking initiative eventually and throwing the Easter Bunny dagger, and then Raven sees that, raises Starfire up just enough for her to get attacked by it. And yeah, that was before they again do another aerial attack, or they just released all their ammo at the 3 Titans, and they all just fire, like they just fire it together, and the emotions are still, like the reactions are still the same of them like being shocked by the blast, but even before that when they're throwing it. And then like when the Easter Bunny does the self-destruct, like Beast Boy at this point is able to save Raven after all the times of her like pretty much saving him so far this episode, and he pushes her out of the way of a falling beam. She eventually frees him after the bunnies escape with the Easter Bunny. And this is when Beast Boy grabs Raven's arm when they realize that they only have less than a minute left. And again, instead of being mad or angry by the arm grabbing that Beast Boy does, she does yank him away, but it's really more of the fact that they have to find a way to save the moon, even though the ship they're in is about to self-destruct and destroy. And this just leads to a really awesome scene where Raven gets the idea for them to like basically do a suicide launch into the moon so they can like knock the paint off, and like just the look that Raven has in her eyes while she's doing that, while she's putting her hand on the lever and looking at Beast Boy in kind of like a passionate way, even to the point that her eyes are kind of glistening, and she's even smiling at him as well. And this causes him to put his hand on top of her on the same lever so they can both work at it together. And what I really like, if you really pay attention to that scene after they put their hands on the same lever, is that if you look at Raven, she's just staring at the fact that their hands are touching on the lever. Like she's just more like in awe about, not really in awe, but she's just really more like focused on that, while Beast Boy is the one saying like, don't worry, mama, we'll get this together. And it's after he says that line that she looks at him with his determined face. She gets determined as well, and they both launch the lever together. And it just really leads to a very nice cinematic scene where they're both holding hands as the spaceship's going closer. And what's really like probably my favorite like 1 second scene that Teen Titans Go has ever done so far is that like as they're holding hands, it does a close-up to them holding hands, and not only that, but it actually shows you having both of them simultaneously tightening each other's grips in each other's hand. And I just find that really great, because they really didn't need any dialogue or any humor or anything. And we just see pure emotion that these two characters that we've been watching for 10 years, if not more, are having in this intense moment right now. To the point that even leads to them smiling at each other. Raven smiling at Beast Boy first, and then him smiling back. Like, it's really awesome seeing how much initiative Raven has taken with the romance in this episode. Because I honestly see that as like, she was technically the one that broke off the relationship at the end of BBRAE. So the fact that like here we are like 4 seasons later, and she's taking the initiative for a lot of the moments they're having together. And I kind of even mentioned that in my video I made in November about like season 6 and season 7, how she did that a couple of times in season 7. So I feel like that's really more of like, I can definitely see it being a thing that Raven's going to be the one to ignite their romance later on in the season or this series, if they even do it. It really looks like they're definitely leaning more on the fact that the two of them do in fact still love each other, and they do in fact still care for one another. We get the 2 silhouettes of the 2 of them hugging each other closely together before we see each of them like passionately in like a serious look, like tightening each other's grip from one another. Like Raven tightens her grip on Beast Boy tightens his back. He's even showing how much aggression he's showing by like baring his teeth, and like they're both just kind of like in the moment right there. And then of course, heart-shaped explosion on the moon as the spaceship reaches impact, and like Raven's plan works of like the paint brushing right off as the heart impact still stays intact on the moon. Like, props to the animation team for doing that, and it just really goes to show that Beast Boy and Raven is not dead. Like, BBRAE is not dead in Teen Titans Go. You get them in the skate pod, and they're both like celebrating together. They're both spinning around together, both hug each other and say we did it at the same. It's just, I really like the synchronicity of the 2 of them in this episode. I feel like this episode now shows it more than ever that like in intense situations, how much like the fact that the 2 will carry for each other and make sure the other one's safe and everything just really shows. And just, I mean, I don't think anybody would have predicted Teen Titans Go to really do that let alone 10 years down the road. It really just shows a serious side to the show, and it just, people have said it for years, it really shows how much Beast Boy and Raven and their romance is taken seriously in a very not so serious show. And this episode, like I've been saying, does that perfectly. But with that being said, thanks for your time. I hope if I didn't spoil Eastern Annihilation too much for you, check it out. Or if you just want to see these scenes for yourself, I recommend you check them out. With that being said, have a good one.